so much, everyone, for being here. Thank you. We're going to get started because we have a lot to talk about. And I'm so excited for you all to learn more about not just who Bianca is, but what she's doing, especially with Shipt. So, getting started, Bianca, welcome. How are you?
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here. I love Techqueria. I've been tuning in for years now, it feels like. And I'm just so excited that we get to have this conversation and that all of you guys get to be here for it. And I hope this is just one of the many great conversations that you've been able to tune into.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those of you who don't know, my name is Jolie Cedeño. I'm the executive director here at Techqueria, and I'm really excited to moderate this discussion with Bianca. And Bianca, I would love to give you a moment to introduce yourself, tell people where you're coming from, and what you do.
Yeah. So Bianca Smoke, I am a newlywed. So my maiden name was Villanueva. So I'm Dominican and Puerto Rican, originally from New York. Shout out anyone from New York. I see some there. But now I live in Birmingham, Alabama, which before you say anything, if you haven't visited, it's a beautiful city and I cannot recommend it enough. I thought I would be a born and raised and never leave New Yorker. I thought I'd be 80-year-old riding the bus. And now I live in the South and I love it. People are kind here. The food is good.
Listen,
So,
I
yeah.
wasn't going to get on Alabama because I hear so much good things about the food there. And also, Alandria from Love Island is from Alabama or something. y'all, got, y'all got a little something.
You have a little something. It's like a little gem. You wouldn't expect it. I didn't expect it, but I assure you that it's a great place and I love it. So,
I love this
um,
for you. Congratulations. But like we're here to talk about your career, your journey. So I'd love to know like what drew you to corporate communications and tech, and especially with a focus on social impact.
yes, career and journey, interesting one for me. So I graduated college in 2019, which means that I didn't know the pandemic was right around the corner and gonna close everything. And especially with me moving to a new city, there's a lot of challenges. So I didn't really choose this career path of corporate comms. I more so fell into it. So Shipt was my first job out of college. Now, I did study communications in college. So I did have a background in that there, but my first job was not in communications. I started out at Shipt in a junior coordinator role managing CPG brands. So CPGs are like Nestle, Kraft Heinz, all of those guys. So I was doing that for a few years. And, every step in your journey teaches you something, even if you don't really want to be in that step. So I learned a lot in that role. I learned problem solving skills. I learned how to have hard conversations. I learned how to tell compelling stories. So a lot of growth there, but I still wasn't exactly where I wanted to be. So I landed in communications, thankfully, because I met who would be my current boss at a conference that I was at. And I think a lot of times, especially the women, like we can be shy and like a little intimidated to introduce ourselves to people. But when somebody once told me that you have to be bold and that, you're a person, they're a person, there's no reason you should be scared to go up to somebody. So I saw my current boss there at the conference and I was kind of starstruck because she has a badass resume. She
Hey.
done incredible things. I knew what she was doing at the company and I just like walked up to her, stuck my hand out and shook her hand and like introduced myself. And a few weeks later, we had coffee. A few weeks after that, I had an interview. And a few weeks after that, I was in a role that didn't even exist before me. So um, I was doing B2B communications. So a lot more technical. Maybe there's some people in here probably with technical backgrounds. So, and I actually didn't end up doing social impact at first. That happened because of a reorg, which is like totally out of your control, right? But
Yeah.
um, what I was doing was like always showing up as my authentic self in rooms. And that my authentic self is somebody who cares about community, is somebody who's always involved in community. I volunteered far too much. But it's like serves my heart, right? So I do it. And anytime I was partnering with one of my organizations, I would let everybody at Shipt know. One of them, HICA, the Hispanic and Immigrant Center of Alabama. I'm on their junior board for years now. And we have a tamale sale every year. And like, I let everybody know at Shipt, if you want a tamale, you better let me know. I'm selling them here. Click this link, support HICA. So it was very evident. Like I kind of created this like reputation of like Bianca's always doing stuff in the community. So when I ended up doing social impact storytelling through my corporate communications lens, it felt so natural because I got to pair my passion and my profession and kind of do both. So
I heard so many gems in what you just shared because, first of all, something that we've been pushing for folks to do during the summit is to connect and to
mm,
not be scared and reach out. By you reaching out to that person that worked at Shipt and had that like bomb ass resume, you really like prove the point that sometimes you have to create your opportunities, and building that community is really what helps you move on to the next step. And I also love that you're pointing out how you were vocal about the things that you were doing, not just at work, but outside of work, because it really helped to shape for folks to understand like who you are as like a whole authentic person. And it created more opportunities for you. And so one of the things that, we tech is always seen as something like, do what is it, break things and move fast kind of thing. So and that often is seen as like a super like let's make as much money as possible, but I would love to know from you, in terms of the space you're in, what does tech for good mean for you, and what does that mean for you, not just personally but professionally?
yeah. Well, I have to give a shout out to the team who actually does the work, right? Because as a communicator, we are just amplifiers of the work. But we have an incredible social impact team here at Shipt that is doing this work every day to connect Shipt with local organizations who are making change, right? And the leader of that team, she's an incredible woman. Her name is Khadija Abdullah. And she always says this term, she uses this term that we can be a company that does both good and well for people. And to me, what that means is that there's always room to meet the business goals and meet the objectives, serve our stakeholders like we're supposed to, but also do good for the community. Like those things don't have to work in silos, like they can all work together. Like sometimes they're called like the triple bottom line of like, revenue, people, planet. Like I think you don't have to separate it, but that's a business choice, right? That's like the organization has to choose to do that. At Shipt, we do choose that. We choose to show up in this way. So I'm grateful that, I get to work for that an organization that does care. But when we consider tech for good at Shipt, it always starts by listening to our stakeholders, because we're crazy to think that a bunch of us sitting in a Zoom room know the needs of a community that we've never been to better than those who are doing the work on the ground, because they are on the ground, right? Like there are organizations in every single city, nonprofits who are doing incredible work to serve their community. So personally, I echo these values. I think no matter how busy you are, you can always find time to do good and well for the community. And it can look different for a lot of us. Maybe you're not serving meals at your local soup kitchen, but maybe you can tutor a young person, or give your services, if you're a technical person, give your services pro bono to a local nonprofit. Like there's always space for that. And I think you just have to find it.
100%. I also want to be super transparent with y'all. If y'all see my eyes looking down, it's because I want to make sure I'm asking the questions and hitting all the points, because there's so much to learn from Bianca, especially the work that she's doing with Shipt. So I just want to make sure that we highlight all the things. But that being that said, you were talking about the approach that Shipt has taken, and one of the things that I love that you noted is like not pretending like you all know the answers, and seeing
Mhm.
what are the structures already put in place by like nonprofits, local communities, and all that you can help support and uplift. So I would love to know, at Shipt, how do you approach integrating social impact into both your communication strategies and the company's broader mission?
Yeah. So, we're listening to everybody. We're listening to community partners. We're listening to like the shoppers and drivers on our platform. I should probably say this, like for those who don't know who Shipt is, we are
Oh,
a
right.
retail technology. We're a retail technology company, and we deliver or we have a marketplace of over 100 retailers that you can order anything you need from local, regional, national retailers that you love. And we do that by using our network of shoppers and drivers across the country. Um, so we're listening to what they care about. We're listening to what our retail partners care about. Everybody, like it always starts with that. But another thing we're really intentional about, and I said this kind of earlier, is investing in the community-led partners and programs, because they're doing the work. They know what their community needs, and when you really think about it, like they're the ones that are best suited to make a long-lasting change. Like we can throw a grant at anybody, like if they serve a need that we like align with, but to make really long lasting change, I think it starts with, supporting those people who have been there for a long time. From a comms perspective, we really try and let the stories shine because they're really impactful. Like I have written some stories or talked to some partners in the community who like I get off and I'm like almost in tears because they do such incredible work. I mean, like we've all seen that, like an organization who does such great work, you're like, your heart just sings and you're like, I want to be a part of that, you know? And in a tech role, sometimes that doesn't always, you can't always be that, you know, because you're like coding or whatever. Like you're doing something that like doesn't allow you to like fully pour into an organization. But I think, like I said earlier, there's always opportunities for you to serve. So but from a comms perspective, like we always just try and let their story shine because it's good enough just like that. Like we just try and let them spotlight. And from a broader company lens, like we want to make sure that people know what Shipt cares about because nowadays a company has to stand for something, right? Consumers expect that of us. Like you cannot just be a company. I mean, you can, that's your business prerogative, like that's your choice. But for us at Shipt, like we want people to know our stakeholders, like what we stand for, what we care about. And I think we that can be like a vast variety of stakeholders. Like it can be like elected officials, it can be shoppers and drivers. You know, Shipt, we are an independent subsidiary, like we do our own thing, and for us our thing is food security. So you know, millions of people across the country are experiencing food insecurity, so we're partnering with community organizations who can help you know, bridge those gaps.
Yeah, no. One, I'm glad one you explained what Shipt was. That was a mess on my part to not be like, oh, so what does Shipt do? But thank you so much for clarifying that. And yeah, you are correct. One of the things that I've read is that millennials and Gen Z specifically as shoppers and consumers, they care also a lot about the impact companies have overall, whether it's environmental or community based work to see like not just that they're getting their goods from it, but like ensuring that their dollar goes a little bit further in order to support our global world in many different places. So for sure, I'm glad that Shipt is keeping that in mind in terms of their values. That being said, I know that you have a lot of programs that you're doing at Shipt, and I'd love to know an example of a program or initiative that you all have been doing where you felt like technology truly made a difference in people's lives.
Yeah. Um, I have a great one that we just published a story about that I'll share, but we have a partner that received a grant back in 2023 who's based up in North Minneapolis, Minnesota. I've never been to Minnesota, but they experience the same levels of food insecurity that we're seeing across the nation. So this organization, they're called Appetite for Change. And what they do specifically is use food as a tool to build health, wealth, and social change, which is just wonderful, right? Like health, wealth, and social change. So, you know, we had this community partner for a few years. They were a grantee for 2 years in a row. So 23, 24, now in 25, we like didn't want to necessarily like separate. We loved what they were doing. Their values aligned with ours, especially in the food security space. So we asked them like, how else can we plug in, you know? And I think as a business, like when we thinking about plugging into an organization, it starts by like looking at like, what do we do really well? And like how can we be of service to others? And I think that also can apply like to individuals too. Like what do you do really well, and like how can you gift that to others? So for us, like I said earlier, like we have this network of like shoppers and drivers across the country, and they're local. Like they largely live in the communities that they serve. I like to say like they are your retired teacher, they're your stay-at-home mom, like they just are somebody who like values flexibility and also just need like a little bit of extra cash on every week, you know? So that's kind of like sometimes why they shop for Shipt. So we have this like network of shoppers and drivers. We have technology, right? Like we exist as a marketplace that connects people to this. So we kind of just like how can we work together for this? And what the product of that was a partnership with Appetite for Change, where we help deliver meal boxes from their organization to food insecure families in North Minneapolis. Every week, we deliver to 140 families. And it's has really been a catalyst for helping us bridge that gap between food insecure families and the food that exists, right? Because it's out there. It's not like when we think about food insecurity, it's not like the food doesn't exist. It's there. It's not getting to the people who need it. So we realized like we can bridge that gap for you guys. So since June 2025, so this summer, we've been partnering with Appetite for Change to deliver meal boxes to food insecure families across North Minneapolis. And by the end of the program, at the end of the year, we'll have delivered over 40,000 meals. So
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow. And we have video to share from that program, correct?
we do have video.
I got you. One second. Here we go.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm obsessed.
So cute. The
That
kids, they're so sweet.
Oh my God. So, well, first off, like, so my background prior to being at Techqueria has been in youth development. So the piece of making sure that bringing youth into it so that they're able to gain skills and be able to like have that first taste of workforce development while giving back to the community is incredible. And also addressing food insecurities. As someone who like I come from the South Bronx, I understand what that looks like, and having that happen in Minneapolis, which I know has a lot of food deserts, it's just such great work. And so props to you and props to Shipt for this program existing. Do you want to tell us a little bit more before we move on?
And I'm glad you brought up the youth program. Those youths get to learn all of those things, but they also are getting paid. They're getting paid up to $15 an hour. Like that's incredible to be able to like support themselves and their families and their futures. I know I also grew up food insecure in New York, and I think like that's why this work is so important to me too, because you know it's a real tangible need. It's like I always think about like the hierarchy of needs, right? Like food is at the bottom. Like how are we if we're not feeding our neighbors and ourselves like what like we're failing as neighbors. I think that's my personal Bianca ethos. But like so yeah, this program has just been such an honor to be a part of, you know, and I think it doesn't happen in a silo, right? Like it doesn't happen with just the social impact team saying like, we want to do this thing with this partner that we have. There was so much that went behind that too. There was, you know, tech integrations. We had to work with our product team to make it actually happen because it's not like an ad hoc thing that happens. Like we inserted these orders into the app at like real orders because the shoppers could pick it up like a real order and they got paid like a real order. So it's just this really beautiful combination of like using our product for what it's made for, supporting the community for what they need, and also giving shoppers and drivers like the flexibility and the ability to earn and give back. Like how many of us get paid to volunteer? I mean, I think that's the whole essence of volunteerism, is that you don't get paid, but like we created this system that like people can give back to their communities. Like, and that I love that one quote from that the shopper Thomas, because he grew up in that community. Like this is the community that he grew up in, he was
Yes.
raised in, and now he's feeding his neighbors and being able to like continue to earn his living the way he wants to. And it's just, it's a really special combination of like helping the food insecurity piece, but also like we talk about like how human connection and technology can pair at Ships. And it really is like that bit of social cohesion that is really special to us.
Yeah. Yeah, tell me a little bit more about that because, you have these programs that you do. You have uh, this one that we just learned about that's incredible. And, for folks who don't know, Shift has been a longtime partner with Techqueria. And one of the things that I find amazing is your commitment to ensuring that the pipeline for your hiring is diverse and including people who, usually do not get seen in places like in tech spaces. And so I would love to know more like how is tech for good at Ship, not just a slogan, but something that's embedded into the company culture.
Yeah, and we're calling it tech for good, but really like at the end of that video, what how we consider like our social impact work is like this aspirational goal of making fresh food accessible to all regardless of zip code. And that zip code piece is really important, right? Because there are, we're using this broad like sense of like 40 million people across the country are experiencing food insecurity, but there are zip codes that are just fine. There are zip codes that are experiencing they have an abundance of what they need, right? So it's this bit about like making sure that everybody, no matter where they are, no matter if they're in a city or a rural area, can all like have access to food. And like we know that this is not something we can do on our own, right? Like solving world hunger is such a lofty goal. It's not something that anyone in like organization, anyone individual can do.
Right.
But we know that like come if we bring, individuals, private entities, public sectors, like if we bring us all together, like we can start to build systems that work for everybody, build reliable food systems that can feed people who need it. So um yeah, but back to like how we do this at Shipped is our social impact team has a variety of like programs that they do throughout the year. So we have our grant program that's every annually, and that's where we found appetite for change because they came through our grant program last year. And everything we do is rooted in food security, right? Because we believe that like Shipped being a deliverer of groceries, like we are in a unique position to do that, right? So we have our grant program that runs every year, but then we also have oh, do you hear that too, Julie?
I do hear that too. Is that, I mean,
Okay, I think it's better.
okay. There we go.
We also have like a business accelerator program that we call Ladder Up. So it's this really unique program. You can go to ship.com/ladder up to see more about it. But it's this really unique program that like brings fresh food organizations in. So for us, that's farmers markets, teaching farms, co-ops, local grocers, stuff like that, fresh food organizations. We bring them into this program that's 10 weeks long, and they not only receive a grant, they do receive financial support, but they also receive education. We bring in experts from Ship, but also from our partners from like national organizations. We bring in people who can educate them on like e-commerce, like marketing, like all these different things that like sometimes they might have a really good organization at heart, but like they might be missing these like technical things that can really get them to the next level and get them to like a place where they're sustained for like growth or even just stability. Sometimes that's the goal. Um, so our ladder up program also runs every year, and it's just a wonderful program to be able to pour more into these organizations, besides just the financial support, because that can be great, but like how can we help set you up for success like beyond that grant? So um, we do that. So grants, ladder up. We're also big in like volunteerism as an organization. So I think every year last year we aimed to hit 10,000 hours of volunteerism at the organization, and we did hit it. Yay.
Hey.
Um, so we're like big on like creating opportunities to serve the communities that we live in, but also like the like national opportunities to serve as an organization. So those are kind of like the ways that we do tech for good. But then I think like from a comms perspective, like one of the things that I'm always big on is like bringing our internal team members along for this journey because one, we're not just doing it so that other like external people can see it. Like we want to just do it because it's right to do, and
Mhm.
also because like we want people to be proud. Like we want our internal team members to be proud of us. Like we want them to say like, oh yeah, like I love working at Shipt because Shipt cares about this. I love working at Shipt because they support this organization that like I'm connected to, like I'm tied to. So um it's really just like how do we do good and well?
Yeah. Madi wrote that bringing people together around shared values, and that seems like
Mhm.
that I've found with everyone who I've interacted at Shipped, that seems to be core to the purpose of folks working there. And one of the things that I'm glad you brought up in terms of like communications of not just caring about like what people externally think, but also making sure that people internally are proud of the work that's being done. And I'd love to know, like from your perspective, in terms of um, wanting to be seen as socially responsible, not just shipped, but like when companies want to be seen as purposefully responsible. I could speak English sometimes, I swear. um, how do you make sure you do that in an authentic way, and do the storytelling in an authentic way instead of like it coming off as like purpose washing?
Yeah, I mean, purpose washing is so transparent. Like we can, I mean, consumers are not dumb. Like we see that. Like we can see if you're just doing something because you want us to see it, you know, like um so for us it's about being intentional about letting the organization, like our community partner, be the star. Like we're big on just like uplifting them and letting their story, because like that video, just seeing what Appetite for Change does is really what makes your heart warm. It's not like, yes, us knowing that Shipt is helping deliver the boxes is cool, but like seeing what they do is really what makes your heart warm. So it's like really just about like letting them shine because the work they're doing is important and it's impactful, and it really is the purposeful stuff that's happening on the ground. And then I like to position Shipt as just like an enabler of the work. Like we are a supporting cast member. Like the work is getting done regardless of us, but with us, like we're just helping uplift them even more. So that's kind of how I like to position us from a comms perspective, because you know, in partnership, by helping enable them, like we're just helping one, we're easing some financial burden. Like if I didn't like that program, like we are funding that completely. Like they are not paying a dime to get those meal boxes to the families' homes. Like we are funding that, and paying our shoppers like a normal order, right? But um, yeah, it's like how can you help these organizations like expand and grow their awareness, but also like their reach? And I think that's kind of how, from a comms perspective, how I like to position Shipt as like an enabler of the work. We're not solving food insecurity on our own, but together in partnership, like we can make a change.
Mhm. Yeah, I love the fact that you're using the word enabler because it makes me think of
Mhm.
Douglas as like good trouble, and you all are creating good trouble in the world
Ooh, yes.
currently. Yeah. So, in terms of when other companies are, trying to align with the idea of social impact, have you found yourself ever having to have some hard conversations, when navigating that the goals of a company and their practices don't fully align with the idea of social impact?
Yeah, of course. I think as like a comms professional, like everybody wants a press release for everything. And like truthfully, like one, we're a small but mighty team, right? So that's like our bandwidth is challenged. But two, like we not everything is news, right? Like sometimes it can be like really good and really nice, but like doesn't necessarily mean it's gonna like get picked up by a reporter. And like, as from a comms perspective, like a part of our work is that it's like how are we making this like what I call like mediable? Like how is it intriguing to like external audiences? So like where that comes in for me is like me having to like kind of like talk to my partners about like I love this story. I do love it. Like, here's how else we can tell it. Like, here's like another channel that I can help tell this story. Like, whether it to be to internal audiences or like our LinkedIn following or like whatever, like, but doesn't always mean I'm going to write you a press release about it. So it's like often about like having conversations about prioritization, like, and like, what are we doing? Why are we doing it? Is it really worth the squeeze? Like, maybe not right now. Like, and that's never nice. Like, I'm a yes person. Like, I'd love to say yes to everybody, but like sometimes I do have to challenge my partners and challenge myself to like think in a manner of like, how am I prioritizing like what I'm doing and like really making sure that what I'm doing is worth the squeeze. So sometimes that comes in the form of like a not right now conversation, which is not nice. But um, yeah, I also like try and push my partners on thinking about like, okay, this idea isn't really like fully built, but like here's what I think could get it to that point, or like, or challenge him to think about like what's new, like what's innovative, or like what's just like getting us to parity. Like, is this really cool thing that you like and that you worked on really like is it have our competitors done that already? Like, if so, like, that's just getting us to parity. Like, what are we doing that's new? What are we doing that's innovative? Like, it's not always nice to have that conversation, but it is one that has to happen. And like, I also think it's helpful for them to think about like, how can I challenge your thoughts? Nobody wants a yes man. Like,
Yeah.
nobody wants a yes man. Like, let's push ourselves. Like, let's try and aim for innovation. Like, I think that's kind of sometimes the seat I have to sit in as a like comms person because everything can't be a press release.
Yeah. And, speaking of like tricky situations and tricky conversations, we're in an atmosphere where companies have to, even though you are doing your best to do good, and I know that Ship's doing a lot of great work, audiences get skeptical,
Mm.
consumers get skeptical. So I'd love to know how you handle any criticism or skepticism in order to highlight the work and keep the conversation around the good that's being done.
Yeah, I mean, the public will always have comments to say about the company you work for, right? Like, you can never make everybody happy. And I think that's kind of like that's just something you have to come to terms with, right? So for us, like we serve a lot of different stakeholders, right? Like our shoppers and drivers, like our internal stakeholders, like the community at large, like everybody, right? So from a comms perspective, like I kind of have to look at things more at like a micro level, like because I know that I can't make everybody happy. Like for this specific thing, like who am I trying to make happy? Like who is my target? Like that I'm trying to like speak to directly because your comms should not be for everybody. Like as a community, if there are any communications professionals in the room, like you need to know who your target audience is. You need to know what they care about and like how you're getting that message across to them. So for me, like I try and look at things more at that micro level. Like who am I talking to and how can I just make them happy? Like what are my objectives to get to that goal? And like how do I want them to receive the message? Like that's how I measure success because there's just too many other factors at play to like try and please everybody. It's just not achievable. So it's like, okay, who's the one person you're trying to please? Like, just focus on them.
That's a great note because it's so easy to get wrapped up in the like trying to cover all the bases,
Mhm.
but staying focused and making sure that the communications is focused on who needs to hear it is really important. So thank you for that.
Mhm.
Um, and you've alluded to this before because you were talking about the fact that Shipt really believes in connecting with local communities and seeing what's necessary there versus like trying to invent the new wheel. So, and social impact just doesn't happen in a vacuum. And I'm glad that you all understand that. So, how would you suggest for any tech company to build meaningful partnerships with nonprofits, local communities, or grassroots groups, or maybe like a group like Techqueria?
I think it's like, I mean, I said like listening, right? Like listening to what their actual needs are, like, and not coming into the room assuming on what you think they need. I think like there's like listening to hear and then there's listening to respond. And like if you're not, you should only be doing number one, like it and or else you're going to come in like with a fully baked plan about here's how I'm going to support the Techqueria this year without even asking them like what do you guys need like and I think you kind of have to come in with a clean slate, right? You have to listen. But then I also think it's finding organizations like where your missions align naturally. Like for us, a lot of the organizations that we're partnering with in the food security space, like our mission statements kind of sound the same because we all care about feeding people in like ways that are equitable and ways that are like not we're aimed on like fresh food, right? Because like when we think about food insecurity, like there's a or like food deserts too. Those food deserts probably have food. It's just fast food. It's fried. It's coming out of a freezer. Like what they're missing is fresh food. Like that's the element that so I think like when you find an organization whose mission aligns with yours, like it's not hard to like build something that's great because you're all working towards the same horizon, you know. And it might not be exactly like it might be different in certain aspects. Like it's unlikely that you're going to find someone who's like exactly you, but there are bound to be more similarities than differences. And like for the differences that do exist, like how can you leverage them? Like maybe that's a gap that you don't have in your organization that they, you know, or maybe vice versa. So yeah, it's like listening to hear, like finding things that like align and just like letting it happen. A lot of times it can happen way more organically than like forcing it.
Yeah. I love the idea of ensuring that you're listening to hear and that
Mm,
and one of the things that you noted earlier also is specifying it to specific communities. Because, for example, the work that's being done in Minnesota is amazing, but that doesn't mean that the program that works in Minnesota is necessarily going to work in Anchorage or it's going to work in the Bronx. Like, everything, you have to listen to communities at the local level to understand what their needs are, and they may not reflect, even though like it was very successful in one place, doesn't mean that it can replicate exactly the same.
yeah.
And so I think something that's really important about the work that you're doing, you're pushing forward, is that you're thinking about, ensuring that you're listening to the needs of the local and not just presuming that like y'all know best because, hey, we did this and it worked so good here.
Mm,
So I'm glad that that's the approach you all are taking. And thinking about the approach that you all have taken and thinking about like the future of
mm,
tech for social impact, I'd love to know like what kind of advice would you have to like young engineers, designers, founders, that and how they can align their careers with social impact? What kind of advice would you give?
mm. Yeah, you know, I mean, it's like not always the easiest thing. Like I struggle because I'm someone who cares so deeply, like at a personal level about social impact. Like it's not the easiest to like show up in work as like your engineer self when you know you want to be like doing something that's like really helping people every day. So that's like its own. You kind of have to like come to you have to do some soul searching in that. But I would say like the easiest thing is to just always show up as yourself. Like I think if you show up as an authentic self and you show up as somebody who cares, like if social impact is something you care about, like if you're doing that in your personal life, like you should be showing up that way. Like I said, the tamales example, like I'm telling you, like as soon as the tamale sale opens, I'm letting people know. I'm shouting it into every Slack channel that we have, like buy your tamales to support Hika because they're doing incredible work in the community, right? For Latinos across Central Alabama. So I think it's like showing up as yourself. If purpose is core to you as a person, like just bring those values into work and it will shine to others as well. Like it others will see like, oh yeah, John really cares about community. Like John is always like he tells me every time I ask how his weekend is, he's been volunteering. Like that's cool. So that means that the next time that like an opportunity, a project comes up that touches social impact related work or touches like this area that maybe your company does care about, like they're gonna be like, oh yeah, John loves volunteering. Like, let's definitely put him on this project. Like it, I mean, it doesn't always work that way, right? Like, but sometimes it can. And if you're not showing up as your full self, they'll never know that you care about this stuff. Like they'll never know. They'll just think you're just one of the other engineers, right? But actually, you care deeply about this one topic and now here's your opportunity. But because you were showing up as like a shell of yourself, you'll never have that opportunity. So I don't know. I think like I'm always an advocate for showing up as your authentic self. Now, like you got it's still the professional world, so like be professional, but like, you can still show up like this is what you see is how I show up in every room, you know? And like I just think like if we're overthinking it often around like how we do need to show up in a professional space, but like I don't know, just be yourself. It's a lot harder to be someone else.
Absolutely. Listen, authenticity in the workplace is so important
Mm,
because you spend 8 hours, like, depending on your job, you spend up to 8 hours a day, 5 days a week If you have like a regular 9 to 5, that is such a large portion of your life that you are spending there, and to not be able to be your authentic self during that time, and of course within the context of a professional matter, whatever professional means to people. um, but that can be harmful to yourself as a person, for your mental health, and for the way that you're able to navigate. And also, just like you shared, you being able to be upfront about what matters to you really open different avenues for you in your career to do things that you're really invested in doing. And when you were talking, that was something I was going to bring up because of the tamales. I was like, no shade to the Girl Scouts, but if you tell me like, yo, there's some tamales for sale, I'm all
Yeah.
right. Let's get on this. No shade to the Thin Mints, but hit me up with the tamales. So, and knowing that and being like, oh, I'm interested, let me learn more. Bianca, tell me more. What is this? What I'm getting some great food, but what's this all for? And so it
Mhm.
allows those conversations to happen, and it becomes normalized
Exactly.
in at the company to talk about. So, props to y'all for creating the kind of atmosphere at your job in which that people can do that. Because
Yeah.
not every place does. And so I would love to, but shifting gears and thinking about, um, how folks not just show up in spaces, but also just like why social impact is important. I'd love to know, like, do you have a lesson or something you've shared in your role that you wish more people understood about communication and social impact?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's about keeping people and community at the forefront because it's not about us, it's about them, right? Like, it's not about what Shipt is doing, it's about what these incredible organizations that we have the opportunity to partner with are doing on the ground every single day to help their community, right? Like, because at the grand scheme of things, it's just one element of what Shipt does, but that's everything that they do. Like, that is everything that they do when they show up for their mornings is about supporting the community and like how you can keep them at the forefront. Like, I think this like goes back to like purpose washing, like from a communication standpoint, like if you're letting them shine, then that's like it's easy, like it's not that complicated if you're like letting these amazing organizations who are doing incredible work just be incredible for
Yeah.
everyone to see.
Yeah. And I'm just going to pause for a second to tell folks we still have a few questions to get through. However, if you have questions in the chat, go to the Q&A section in under the session and submit some questions. And hopefully, if we have time, we can get to them towards the end. But please feel free to put in your questions for Bianca if you have any questions around tech for good and communications. Cool. All right. So, um, moving on. Thank you so much so far. If we were to check back in 5 years,
Mm,
what would success look like for you personally in advancing tech for good?
yeah. For me, I think it would be letting these kinds of like impact stories be more at the forefront of what corporations talk about when they talk about themselves. Like, imagine 5 years down the line when like a quarterly earnings call comes up and like right after they talk about the financials, they talk about like, here's how much clean water they donated to like this organization or this country. Like, here's how many humans they fed in America, like where we're experiencing like severe food insecurity. Like, what would that look like for that to be like one of the top 5 things that a company talks about when they talk about themselves? Like, besides like I don't know, the monies of it all, which of course we got to talk about, but like I think it's that like I mentioned earlier, but the triple bottom line, like an ideal world for Bianca, like that's what it looks like of like that social impact is just as important about how many like sales you did. It's also like how many people did you help. So
Yeah.
that's what tech would for good would look like for me.
I love that. And I remember it was a few years ago. I believe Apple did this like huge flashy commercial with celebrities where they pretended to have a quarterly meeting and talked about their
Mm.
environmental impact that year, and how they were talking about it in the same frame of you would like with quarterly earnings and profits and all that. And instead of Tim Cook being like the head person, he was in the commercial as well. They were reporting to I think it was Octavia Spencer as Mother Earth
I
as
love that.
CEO. Which it was fun to watch and all that, but like, of course, I'm just like, of course, me watching it, I'm just like, I hope that that's actually true, that they do report these things internally, and that it's a great ad, but I hope that it's actually something realistic that happens more
Mhm.
often in companies, of them thinking about what is the impact they're having,
Mhm.
um, both in communities, in among their people, because it's important also, not just thinking about like globally, but like, are your staff and are your employers also feeling like a sense of belonging, a sense of
Mhm.
support, and all of that internally, and also the impact in terms of like what issues around the world. So like, it's great to hear that Shipt feels really strongly about food insecurity and supporting folks having access to food, because it aligns very well with the work that they do around, food delivery. Um,
Mhm.
so being able to tell that story, and also use that as part of the company ethos, and being like, this is just as important to us as profits. I
Mhm.
agree with you. I would love to see that be uh, more along the lines of most companies doing that, and hopefully sooner than rather than later.
Mhm.
All right, so I'd love to know from you, what's a story of impact that you think about that keeps you inspired as you do your work?
I think as I do my work, like I think about the organizations that I get to partner with. Like Appetite for Change is just one, but like I'm also working with another like teaching farm in Montgomery, Alabama, which is like another food insecure community. And they have a beautiful story too about like they opened up a grocery store in the same building that their grandfather did in the 1940s. Like, uh, and now they're still operating like an chemical free organic urban farm in Montgomery, serving the community like in this like ancestral place. Like it was just such a it's like I get to hear these stories from our community partners, and like they're what inspire me to write better stories for Shipt, and like writing stuff that really matters. It's really it's it's what keeps me motivated to like tell these great stories, because it's like they're doing such great work every day on the ground. Like my job is easy. Like all I get to just talk about that. Like it's really it definitely is inspiring.
I love that.
Yeah.
um and that's so important, as you're not, when the days get really hard, especially, being able to like touch back as to like, what makes this job important, and why is it so important that I'm doing what I'm doing.
Mhm.
um because Lord knows there are days I wake up and I'm just like, oh God, I really don't want to log on today. But then you think about like, hey, this is the impact that my work is doing.
Right.
It really brings motivation to keep things going forward. And just, I appreciate so much the efforts that you're doing, both in your professional life and in your personal life, to continue having an incredible impact on your community, and really highlighting the stories that need to be told. Before we move on to the very, very last question, I'd love to know, is there anything that you want to make sure that we walk away with, and that we know that we haven't talked about already?
Oh my gosh, yeah, that's a good question. I should have thought about that. I don't know. I just think like I would encourage all of us. Like I think sometimes in the tech world, I don't know where you all who are listening are working at, but like sometimes we can feel like we are just, another cog on the machine of like meeting like shareholder goals or like whatever your company's goals are, and like that can if you're probably on this call because you care about tech for good too, or like you care about social impact. So like I would just say like don't feel as if like you are not doing anything for the greater good, because there are ways you can, like there are so many ways like in your personal life, and that counts. Like you might not have that in your day job, but if you're doing it in your personal life, like you are helping people. Like do not be confused. Like I think I have to challenge myself with that too. I'm like, you know you are making a change. You might not be in your 40-hour a week job, but like there are ways that you can make good with your skills that may be technical or non-technical. And I just want to like leave those parting words, like reassurance that like there's a lot of good to be made in your local community. That's usually where it starts. So go do it. Don't hesitate. Just go.
Love that. Before I ask my last question, again, if y'all want to ask Bianca a question, please put it in the Q&A section and we can get to it. But one of the things I truly believe in is, making sure you have time for rest and time for play, because in order to serve others, you got to refill your cup.
Mm.
So I'd love to know from you, what are you like binge watching these days? What's bringing you joy? Tell us about that.
Okay. Rest is something I need to like do more of. I'm just not the best example of like finding rest for a person. But right now I'm binge watching this new Korean show. I'm not like super into like Korea but first this has gotten my attention. It's giving like Outlander. It's like kind of like a time traveling thing, but she's a chef. I don't know the name of it, but it's on Netflix and like those keywords might tell you. But I will say like a binge show that I loved that like this community would appreciate is like this show also on Netflix. I feel like when we think about like Latinos, we don't think about our like non-Spanish speaking countries in Latin America, right? Like Brazil, the largest landmass in South America, right? So I fell in love with this show called Coisa Más Linda, and it's like I think in English they call it on Netflix The Girls of Ipanema, but it's this incredible show about like these women in the 1950s who own their own, like start their own business, and like it's so good. It's addicting. It only has 2 seasons because they didn't renew it, but like if you have not watched Coisa Más Linda, I cannot recommend it enough. Please watch it. It's so good.
I love that. I swear, Netflix has this reputation of like never renewing shows just when everyone starts watching it. It's so frustrating.
Amazing.
But yeah, no, love that. So I'm assuming that that it's in Portuguese and you could watch it dubbed or captioned. Awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
I do that with Love Is Blind Brazil. I'm not gonna lie. I love me some
Yeah.
reality TV.
And then you like leave thinking you know a few words in Portuguese
Just a little bit, just a little bit.
into like Portuguese music. Yeah, that
Yeah.
was my rabbit hole. I'm back to like, yeah, but that was good.
Yeah, when you were talking about when you started talking about Korean, I was just like, are you going to talk about K-pop Demon Hunters?
I tried that. I did try that, but I would not. For some reason, it didn't stick. But this one is got me. I'll have to figure out the name of it. But
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, the only reason I watch is because I have little niece and nephews who were like, we have to watch this, Titi, and I'm like, okay, because I am not a K-pop girly, but I appreciated how much they loved it.
right,
Um, yeah, Amber just said international content is top tier. Um,
truly.
Somos Oro and Prime is so funny. Thank you, Esperanza. Yeah, in the chat, if y'all have a recommendation for us, let us know.
Yeah. What are you guys
Things we should
watching?
be watching. Yeah. Anything else that's bringing you joy? It doesn't have to be something you're watching, but feel free.
The seasons are changing. I love fall. You know, in Alabama, that means we're not quite there, even though it's October. It still can be hot outside, which is less ideal. Especially being a New Yorker, like I'm so used to fall, beautiful foliage changing and like cool weather. We're not there yet here in Birmingham, but it's close. Like I was sitting outside most of the morning. I'm a big nature girl, and by that I don't mean I go hiking. Like again, I'm still a New Yorker, so like I'm not out there in the woods, but like I'll take a walk and appreciate the trees and like stuff like that. But yeah, I just like I love um, some time outside, like sitting out, enjoying looking at the trees, whatever. Like I have 2 dogs too, so
Aw,
that's how I spend my time.
I love that. Also, I really love that you noted, not that I'm out there hiking, because
I gotta make a line, right? There's some real outdoorsy people. I'm not her. I'm like, I'm at the house outdoorsy.
listen, I love I'll lay out on the grass, stare up at the things, but
Yeah,
trying to climb things. Nah, I'm good.
I had my grass on a blanket too.
Exactly. On a blanket. I love it. I love it. Yeah. Listen, thank you so much for everything. I'm looking at the chat real quick. We've got Harina on Prime is hilarious. Cool. Shout out to Star Wars. We got Ahsoka, The Mandalorian, and Andor. All the main characters are Latino. Absolutely. We also can't forget Oscar Isaac in one of those Star Wars movies. I think he plays Poe or something. See, we got the like magical space Latinos happening. Mentiras la serie in Prime is also funny. All right, we got a
Mhm.
whole list of things to check out moving forward. But yeah, no, thank you so much for all of your wisdom. I'm so like, I just want to take a moment as well. Bianca, if you haven't given yourself your flowers yet, like,
Mhm.
please note that it's because of who you are that you've been able to create spaces to allow for others to flourish. So, you talking about how important it was to you to volunteer, how you reached out to folks at your company, how you showed how important it was for you to provide to support these other organizations, and now your work really impacts for these programs to be funded, for people to be able to eat. Like, I just
Mhm.
hope you're taking a moment and like reflecting that, like, yo, you did that. You're her. And
Aw,
so please note that we are so proud of you and the work that you do.
thank you. That means a lot. I used to be bad at taking compliments. So my therapist would just say thank you and just like shut. Thank you.
There are people in the chat who will tell you I'm equally terrible at taking a compliment. So I'm with you. I appreciate I appreciate that you're appreciating it. But please know that, like, because I know that a lot of what you were sharing, you were like shit, like talking in the we, but also, make sure that you take the moments to recognize that some things couldn't have happened if it weren't for you. So
Thank you. Thank you
absolutely.
all. It's so nice to be here. And thank you to all of you at Techqueria and you, Jaleese, because when I saw I got you, I was like, oh my God, I got the ED? What honor! This has just been so much fun. And I can't wait to listen to all the sessions today and tomorrow. It's one of my favorite events like of the year. So I'm just glad to be here. And I can't wait to be back next year. I mean, as
Yes.
a listener, yeah.
Yes, and listen, I'm so excited that you were able to do the session, that we were able to learn more about what you do and what Shipt is doing, and naming also that, like, I'm so glad that you've been such a supporter over the years and taking part, because you were telling me that you've been to previous Techqueria summits, and I hope that we're keeping up the great tradition, because part of I'm not gonna lie, part of me is just like, I just hope I don't mess it up every year. So thank you so much for that. And speaking of the other sessions, y'all, we have so much that's happening for the rest of the day. I really hope you get to check out other people. We have an amazing closing keynote with Carlos Sanchez. And yeah, and folks in the chat, I see some flowers happening. I see thank yous happening. You are that girl. Bianca, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. I hope you enjoy the rest of your sessions.
Absolutely. Y'all, thank you so much for joining us. Feel free to jump into other sessions. They're currently going live right now. And don't forget, please make sure that you come back tomorrow for the career fair. Shipt will be there too. In case you're like, yo, Bianca's working at a dope place. I should work there.
Uh,
Go to the booth tomorrow when we're live at 2 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, no, 11 a.m. Pacific. Listen, time zones aren't my thing, but it is 2 p.m. Eastern. So make sure you go to the booth tomorrow, and say hi to the Shipt folks, in case Bianca really inspired you to work somewhere that really prioritizes tech for good. That being said, check out the other sessions, and you'll see me at the keynote tonight, later this afternoon. All right, y'all. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.